The art of pleating is one of these obscure things that there's very little information and little documentation. There's only been maybe 1 or 2 books ever written on pleating. There was a piece of fabric that was discovered in one of the Egyptian tombs that was dated to 4,000 years. Essentially, this art form has been around for 4 millennia. For these pleats to survive 4,000 years, they must have used some incredible process. My name is Simon Zdravesky, and I'm the last pleater man left in Melbourne and Victoria, and one of a few across the globe. It was started by the Moroni family in Fitzroy in 1925. About 15 years ago, with the decline of the textile industry in Australia, the family decided to sell the business, and it was bought out by another young family that operated the business for about 10 years. Essentially, the business was not viable economically. I decided to take over in a somewhat naive attempt to resurrect it. Otherwise, everything that you see in the workshop was basically going to be scrapped and sent to the tip.
Coco Flip is a small furniture and lighting business. We design our products here in Melbourne and have everything locally made.
I had had the Specialty Pleaters website bookmarked for quite a few years. We've been meaning to visit them in Williamstown, so we finally got around to doing that, and we're blown away by what we found.
The specialty pleaters may not be around for much longer, and so we decided as an experimental art piece we would try working with them.
The idea for Linear came about from a desire for us to challenge ourselves creatively and do some more experimental work that was removed from the commercial constraints of product design.
In about November of last year, I got a call from Hazlitt asking whether I'd previously pleated any stuff for architectural works. I said, look, we've had a couple of conversations with architects in the past, but we haven't actually gone to the next stage of trying to create something. He asked whether I'd be open, and I said, look, I've been open for 7 years in terms of working with anybody and everybody in order to try to create different opportunities for this particular workshop.
I didn't know much about pleating when we first approached Specialty Pleaters. I'd done a little bit of research into how the process worked and became quite intrigued by the simplicity of the making process.
The pleating process in some ways is a simple process, but is also a complex process. You sandwich the fabric between 2 layers of craft paper, you roll it up, you put it in a steamer, and it comes out, stays 24 hours to dry out, and then you take the fabric out. The more intricate side of things is actually the mould making. The intricate moulds are quite complex and quite difficult to achieve.
I guess I'm really drawn to the handmade process, the moulds, the history.
I mean, you feel it the second you walk in. It's like a little time machine.
You're taking a 2-dimensional piece of fabric, similar to a piece of paper, and you're creating a 3-dimensional art form. And I think that's the magic of what you're doing.
We always like exploring different materials, often things that we're not familiar with. Working with fabric, playing with the different grains and qualities of textures is a beautiful starting point.
They provided some samples of fabric, mainly linen, which is not a traditional fabric for pleating, but in terms of the process that they were trying to create and some of their lighting products, it was working for them, and so I was happy to try it to create something new and something novel.
I guess we'd seen a lot of really traditional pleated lampshades used in the past. It's not a new material to use in lighting.
but it's very well known, the kind of forms. So to take that and try and give it a new life and create some new form that's much more contemporary is definitely one of the aims.
There was a lot of trying and failing and experimenting and playing along the way. So through model making with paper, balsa, we came up with some forms we really liked.
It's almost impossible to tell in the pleat process whether something is working 100% or not. With your hands over time, you basically develop a feel for the moulds as to whether it's fitting or not fitting.
It's really nice to be able to have that back and forth with Simon. He was able to turn around some tests for us quite quickly so that we could bring those back to the workshop.
The future of pleating in Australia and across the globe is quite uncertain. Independent financial businesses, it's hard to see them surviving because of the cost structures, particularly in Australia. We need some sort of support from external organisations in order for arts like this to be able to survive.
It's been really good for us to break away from the day-to-day. It's forced us to spend some purely creative time together. For us, it has opened up a whole new world of possibilities for products down the track.
The exhibition for us is much more about exploring history and storytelling than it is about the final pieces. We love what we've created, but we also love the journey that we've been on and what we've discovered along the way, and we hope that that can be shared through the exhibition itself.